Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's midweek show. Apologies for the slightly late start, but
not my fault.
Not my fault
I know I'm
either.
usually the one that's late. Genuinely not responsible tonight.
No, that was me tonight. I do apologise. Something cropped up, but it's uncropped itself now. So
These things are sent to try us, aren't they? That's what they're there for.
Yes. Did you like tonight's cover picture, by the way?
I actually, when that was on, I actually went and washed my hands. So
Okay. Tonight's
yes,
cover.
yes, I like it. It's very good. Which one am I?
Yes. I think I identify with Hancock more.
Yes, I think that's probably.
But as
probably
ever, there
a fair assessment.
There are Easter eggs in there for people to enjoy, and we will pop that up onto the page later. I'm detecting a new theme now with our cover pictures each week. So anyway, DCI
this can
Ian
only
Buckles.
end badly. Yes, DCI Ian Buckles. This is my last show before they lock me up. So I apologise for that.
Spoilers there for anybody who hasn't seen In the Line of Duty, but hey ho.
Indeed. And as he's from this neck of the woods, it's only fair to pay homage to a Brummie and all that nonsense.
So, how have we been this week?
We have been very, very, very busy. Is the simplest answer to that, I think. It was bank holiday, wasn't it? Which kind of threw everything
Was
out.
it?
Yes, it was a bank holiday. And so people were sort of saying to me, I kept on thinking today that it was Tuesday because I hadn't quite worked out that I'd done some nonsense on Monday that wasn't a work thing. So yes, spent the weekend doing what I planned to do a few months ago, and that was to do some painting and to start to learn in a bit more detail, because I've skirted around it for a long time, learn a little bit more detail about Vallejo paints and how they operate and how they work and how to kind of layer them and all of that sort of stuff. So I thought, well, rather than messing around with something I'm not going to use, I would actually do it in anger and use something that I needed to paint. And then that would kind of force me. I'm not very good at experimentation. I think I've mentioned this before. I don't like experimenting. So, in fact, I hate it with almost unparalleled passion. Don't have paint mules in here. I don't have anything like that. So if I need to learn a technique, I've got to do it in action. I've got to do it actually on a project that I know that I'm going to sort of push to the end. And that's what I did. And I did a figure.
I'm just bringing it up now. Bear with me a second. Un momento, per favore.
So it was... And there it is. That's my figure. This is the Tamiya 1/12 scale motorbike rider that they released, I guess, year before last. I seem to have had for a little while.
Late 2019.
Yeah, I think so. And as you can see, it is a truly magnificent plastic model of a figure. It is so well done, and it's obviously been 3D scanned, and then it's been created from those scans. It is really something else. So I spent 3 days on this thing, and I think probably between 25 and 30 hours I spent painting this 12 scale figure. And that was really just to sort of focus on kind of everything that I needed to kind of bring up as much detail as I could. All of the colours that are on here, other than a couple of glazes which I added over the trousers with an airbrush, everything on here is painted with a brush. It's not airbrushed, and it's painted in over a black base coat. I did a black base coat, and then I put colours over the top of it, and I worked the colours up over the top of that. The one thing I learned from this figure from the outset is there really is no cut. There's no easy route to painting these figures in this scale, and there is no really easy route to painting with acrylics other than just to sit down and do it. And
just to clarify then, so the blue of the jeans and the brown of the jacket that was brush painted. That wasn't that you didn't put an airbrush coat down first. That's all brush painted.
It's brush painted, yeah. So basically, like I say, there were glazes over the top of. There are a couple of glazes over the top of it, which helped to blend it in, but they were minimal. And so basically, it's one layer after another. And I think on the trays, anybody that's painted with acrylics on the trays, we're talking literally dozens of individual paint layers, one after another, glazed over the top. And I posted some sort of quite sort of close-ups of the jeans, and you can actually see I've put the weave into the jeans as well. If you can sort of see that on the screen, I actually painted it in a cross-hatched sort of pattern to sort of build the layers up. There are probably much easier ways of painting this figure. If I was to use Tamiya acrylics or whatever, I could base coat it in black, and then I could add the highlights and the shadows and all of that sort of stuff and build it up that way. But I needed to learn how to do it properly, and so that's kind of what I did with this, and then worked in sort of, like I say, some airbrush layers just to sort of add that accent that I needed, and then worked colours over the top of that with a brush. It was a huge amount of work, but I have to say I really got into it in the end. I really sort of liked it. And then this morning, while I was looking at this, all the Vallejo paint that I painted onto this model was all thinned with just straight water. Actually, sort of deionized water almost, because it came out of the tumble dryer. So it was kind of filtered water, if you like. And then this morning, I remembered that I bought this.
All right, glazed medium. Yeah.
Glazed medium, which you mix in with Vallejo colours, and it creates like a transparent layer, which you then build one on top of another, and it allows you to blend colours in. Completely forgot I got this until this morning when the figure was finished. So the next figure that I paint, I am going to use this and sort of see how this goes. At the moment, the figure is 90% finished. I'm going to leave it alone for a wee while, and then I'm going to go back to it and look at it with kind of fresh eyes.
See, I have that under the workshop here.
Deionized water. You actually have some.
Yes.
Oddly, though, deionized water has an effect on Vallejo paint in that it splits in some cases.
You get the colour suddenly goes. I have this with the with some of the khakis, is that you mix it all up, and then after a while it suddenly goes between a kind of like a pale and a darker colour, and you have to go back in and mix it all up again.
And yet it doesn't do it with tap water. So the minerals in the tap water must have some sort of effect on this. So anyway, so that's kind of how I worked around this thing. There were times on it, especially on his hoodie that pops out of his leather jacket, where I was like, I really don't know how to paint that. I couldn't quite work out what I was trying to do. The other thing was that I spent an awful lot of time with working on colours that were dissimilar from the base layers. So, for instance, the blue jeans, I only used like three different kind of shades, three different colours to paint that. But then I glazed over the top of it purples and magenta just to warm areas up, so that gave it a slightly different color. So in between it sort of inside of his thighs where there's like shadow, that's actually not, there's no black or anything in there. That's done with purple. I worked with purple, and in fact I almost sort of studiously avoided black as much as I could on this figure, in terms of adding black to darken colors and adding white to lighten colors. I tried not to use those as much as I could. So I was using flesh tones and yellows to lighten the colors up, and then I was using sort of darker purples and blues to deepen everything. And it was something that I was told by a really good figure painter to try not to use those, because it muddies the colours, and I didn't really want to do that. So all being well, it'll be kind of finished. To answer Steve Moore's, about 6 inches high. He is 6.5 inches high, actually, the figure. So that gives you kind of an idea of where we are with this. It was a very valuable 3 days I spent with this figure. It's a very valuable sort of lesson to teach myself, really, to kind of push myself. If I was painting 54mm, which I'm going to be doing very shortly, I've got two models to do for Marcus that have got figures with them. I wouldn't go anywhere near the level of sort of intensity and detail that I've done on this. I'd simplify everything back. I wouldn't sort of add weave into the cloth or anything like that. But for a 1/12 scale figure, there's no way around it really. You've kind of got to do that. But it's opened up possibilities. I've got some 120mm figures to do for a vignette, and so I'm hoping to sort of get kind of into that.
Marina has a question. He says, Spencer, have you seen the EK Cosmonaut series of figures at Industria Mechanica? They are based on the art of Derek Stenning. Beautiful stuff, 1/6 and 1/8 scale.
I have, and they are beautiful. They are really, really good. The issue with those now, if you can't really get them, those Industrial Mechanica figures, is I believe he's going to stop making resin figures or stop selling resin figures. I think he's working on another way of getting products out there. So if you are interested in those Industria Mechanica figures and you want them, I think now is the time to get them. From what I can gather, Michael Fichtenfu is not Michael Fichtenmeyer is, I think he's working on other things, sort of Patreon-based 3D prints and all that sort of stuff. So if you want those figures, you need to sort of go out and get them now. So yeah, really enjoyable. It was a really enjoyable thing. Now I'm going to build a vignette around it. The whole idea of painting this figure, it isn't just to go with the bike. There is I have an idea for a vignette that's going to go with it, which will have a scratch built sort of wall section and sort of it'll be relatively high, and that's going to be based on Simon Stallenhag's artwork, if anybody's ever seen any of Simon's work. So that's where I'm going to sort of go with all of this. I'm going to sneeze in a minute.
Carry on.
And so that's what it's going to be, and it's going to be kind of like an alternative reality. It's if you've seen Tales from the Loop or anything like that, or Tales from the Flood, those books, any of that artwork, you know exactly what I mean. So it's going to be kind of like today, but it's going to be slightly, hopefully, if I can get an idea down, it'll be something that's a bit more disorientating than that. You look at it and go, yeah, that's not quite right, is it? What's going on with that? And I'm also thinking of arming this guy as well. I'm thinking of having somewhere on the bike a rack with a weapon of some description, so that he's a little bit more aggressive than he is at the moment. That sort of fits in with the idea that I want. But would I paint another one of these figures? Absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with yours as well.
I'll say I've got. I was just going to try and find him, but because I've been having an office reorganisation today, he's just out of reach at the moment. But I will be. Frankly, I'll be going an entirely different route. I will be going the easy peasy, cheesy, cheaty peasy route of mostly doing it with an airbrush, because fundamentally I am lazy. And in fact, we will, after we talk about the next thing, we will actually come back to tonight's live exciting unboxing. So
I have a feeling that we almost had a dual unboxing today, so that'll be good to see what you've got in yours. Along with the figure that I painted, I've also been working on the Picara, and I now have, and I can show you because you haven't got the picture yet, I now have a completed airframe.
Yeah.
So today I put the finishing touches to the cockpit. Painted the cockpit, as you can see here. This is the rubbishy little picture that I sent to John, but there are better pictures than this that we can kind of see. So that's the cockpit in as it comes in the kit. That's the tub that I showed you the week before last, or last week rather, and sitting on the nose gear bay, weights underneath, painted, and that's it in place. It's not glued in place there. In fact, the cockpit's not glued in at all in the airframe. It sits in two sort of almost kind of locking slots behind the rear bulkhead, locks it into place, and then it sort of is held so that the cockpit isn't glued in. Now, interesting thing with this cockpit is that anybody that paints modern aircraft at some point is going to have to paint consoles with black panels on them on grey, and it's just such a pain to do that. Now, I looked at whenever I'm painting something, I always go to the photographs of the real airplane just to get a sense of how it looks and all of that sort of stuff. The Picara is very unusual from what I can see, in that the side consoles and the walls that lead up to the junction of the console as it 90 degrees off against the cockpit wall is not grey with black panels a la Phantom or Jaguar or anything like that. The whole of that section is black from what I can see in the photographs. So I was initially going to paint just the upper panels, just where they raise up off the console. But that's not how they looked in the photographs. And in actual fact, from what I could see, the inside of the cockpit almost looked like, you remember like on kind of Royal Navy aircraft where the lower section is a colour, is like a pale colour.
Yes,
and then the upper section and the upper section is black, and there's like a differentiation between the two. It's almost like that. So I tried, so although I'd sprayed all of the grey interior and I'd weathered the grey interior as well, it looked really nice under the washes, and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool and everything. I looked at the photographs and I thought, well, I'm going to kill all of that. So that's what I did. And so that's why you can see the console, the side consoles on this match up with the instrument panels. The instrument panels are black as well. They're not grey with black instruments. They are black. So it's quite a distinctive looking cockpit setup on this, and that was something that I wanted to try and kind of recreate. So the interior is sprayed with Tamiya Sky Grey. It's just pale grey on the real aircraft. So Sky Grey is quite a nice colour. It's quite a warm colour. It's got a nice sort of depth to it. Washed over with raw umber and Humbrol matte black. And then all of the details were picked out, as I always do in aircraft, in enamels. They weren't picked out in acrylics. They're all I don't use acrylics very often in aircraft builds. And the reason for that is because if I make a mistake and I go over the line, and when I'm filling in colour and all of that sort of stuff, if I use acrylics, I've got to repaint it. If I use enamels, I can just remove it with enamel thinners and a paintbrush, and then I can neaten up and sharpen up all the edges. So that's kind of where I went with this. And then all of the instruments were all dry brushed with enamels and just details picked out, just to sort of busy it up a little bit.
That's interesting. That's interesting because I find that if I paint the details with acrylics, is on occasions if I do make a bit of a blob, I can actually clean it up with Vallejo airbrush cleaner.
Yep.
Or if it is something where I think, oh lordy, what have you done, Mock? I'll give it a couple of minutes, and then I'll just go back and kind of touch up with the base color. I actually find acrylics far more versatile for doing this than enamels.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there's another reason why I do this, and that is that I tend to paint it. Going back to the sort of the black details and all of that sort of stuff, I tend to add those in after I've washed the cockpit. So if I've got a grey cockpit, the cockpit will be washed in raw umber or whatever that I choose to use to bring out the detail. And then what I do is then I will paint the black details in. And if I don't leave that baseline oil paint to fully cure and fully dry, then putting a water-based acrylic like a Vallejo acrylic over the top of it, it will bead over the top of it. Whereas if I use two enamels, I can do it instantly, so I can just dry it straight off. It's one of the reasons why, as well, I very rarely use acrylics to paint tires, because I've often washed the hub first and then I paint the tire in afterwards. And I find that if I've got any kind of oil on that from the raw umber or whatever, then that residue is underneath the paint and it affects the overlying acrylic. So, but I just find it just kind of works for me. I don't really like paint. Who says after painting a figure for 25 hours? I don't really like painting details on aircraft and vehicles in acrylics. I don't like it anymore. I find it easier and more. There's something I kind of like about using enamels, which I don't with acrylics. So the acrylics kind of stay in the box. outcome of the enamels. And this is one of the things I've talked about before, is about using materials that work for me and work in a consistent way. And you know, and it's like I paint aircraft with Gunsanyo, I paint armor with Tamiya. I don't do it the other way around. So I don't paint aircraft with Tamiya paints at all. Although I have sort of experimented slightly with the lacquers, but not massively. I have to say I've not had great results so far with the lacquers on that. But Tamiya is my armor paint, Gunsanyo is my aircraft paint, and I kind of use the two, and that's sort of how it works, really.
Yeah.
We're going to say, I guess.
Yeah, we're going to say thank you to Russell at Jadlam, who has sent the Pucara kit over to us. Yeah, and you can find them at jadlamracingmodels.com. And so, yeah, big thanks to them. And hopefully within the next week or so, it's all going to be buttoned up and finished. Hurrah.
Indeed. Yeah, and then I can move on to what I bought today.
Well, then you can move on to finishing off your Fine Molds Phantoms.
Well, I can. Well, unfortunately, I'll certainly be working on them, but I'm then into work mode. I've got to. I can actually tell you what I'm going to be working on, so it's not a big secret. I'm going to be doing the new Tamiya Ketten Craft Trad and the new Panzer IV G are my next two builds for work. So I am actually fully back into armor, and
looks around the office to see if he's got a Tamiya Ketten Crad yet. No, I haven't.
No, and the plan for those two is I've been sort of given the go ahead to be able to Valendinize them as well. So each one of those will be the Ketten Craft Trad is, when it arrives, hopefully soon, will be a small vignette with a little structure around it, and then the Panzer IV will be a full-blown diorama. Is the plan.
Nice kit. That's a very nice kit, that Panzer IV. In fact, I still have my 3 figures to finish off for that, so that I can finally call them finished. So I think I'm going to try and get them, hopefully try and get them all buttoned up probably by this time next week. I mean, all the faces are done. It's just the details, but quite frankly, because so much of them is actually hidden inside the vehicle, I'm not going to go to town doing the trousers. You know, I'll paint the basics of the trousers and the feet, trousers and the boots, but I'm not going to start doing shading and weathering. Why would I? You can't see them. So it's going to be an armor modeler, armor modeler doing figures, in as much as there are going to be a lot of shortcuts and a lot of cheats.
One of the comments that came through was, you have to do the figures.
Yeah, you have to do the figures.
You have to do the figures, and there are 4 of them on that new Panzer IV, and all 4, I believe, or from what I can see, are pretty much full figures. So that's going to be kind of cool. But I like the idea as well of doing another desert diorama. That'd be cool. So that's the plan anyway.
Shall we? Let's have a live unboxing here, shall we? This is. I was actually thinking this evening how utterly lucky I am living here in Somerset, is that I'm actually very well served by having 4 kind of retailers that I can call, that I can order from, and that is obviously through Model Centre, across the other way towards the Wiltshire border. I've got Antics in Bristol. I've also got Jadlam, based in Glastonbury, and just down the road in Weston-super-Mare is Premium Hobbies. So, and I haven't ordered anything from Premium before, so this was going to be kind of like an interesting experience. So we got it's very nicely packaged, that, and very securely packaged as well. So what did I order? Well, I ordered some softback sanding sponge sticks, medium. These are the Infinity ones, Infini rather. Never tried these before, and these look like fun. So I think these were £3.50 for 2. So I'm not going to give those a go. I also, pardon me, ordered, bearing in mind that to be a figure I have to paint. Let's just do the cheats way. I ordered some of that Guns Sanyo, the viscous paint. Is it the viscous?
Lascivious.
Lascivious. The viscous lascivious. So I will be putting those to good use on the face on that Tamiya biker figure. Beautifully packaged, by the way. I'm always conscious of the fact that I can always do with more bubble wrap than I actually have, but I'm absolutely massacring this at the moment. So, but yes, very, very nicely priced, and I ordered up the set. So, oh goodness me, it's like Christmas Day. This, ooh, socks. Oh. So let's just get to the bottom of this last one, and oh goodness me, right there we go. We're done. So. Yeah, the set of the sanders and the 5 lascivious paints, which are, he says, there is white peach. I think there's a highlight colour. So, in no particular order, white peach, cocoa milk, which I think is more of like a base colour, and then we have clear pale red. What have we got here? Clear pale orange. And clear pale brown. So looking forward to giving these a whiz, actually. He says, just making sure the lids are all on tightly. But yeah, it was I ordered that Monday evening, turned up today. Fantastic service. So we'll be ordering some more stuff off of Premium. Especially I'm going to get some more of these sanding sticks. And I'm going to be ordering some of those nifty looking ammo of mix sanding sticks as well that we were talking about today. They look pretty neat, don't they? They're fat at the end and thin at the other end. I'm going to get some of them. So yeah. So we'll give them a whiz.
You're very bad.
No. We're gonna order some of those and give those a review. So and what we got here? We have we have a nice little catalogue. Oh look, a sticker. I think we should start doing stickers. So nice little catalogue as well, which is jolly nice. So the one correction I have to make is that originally I thought I could do a click and collect, but no, they've not doing click and collects at the moment, so I've had to do a mail order. But as I say, no problem with that. I think the postage on that was about £3. So very impressed, very, very impressed. And the good thing is that Premium stock a lot of stuff that none of my other people do. So share the wealth, you know.
Indeed. Well.
Oh, blimey. That's good stuff, that. Mr. Stoffer. Right, okay. Just a quick question. What's the difference between the Neo and the Standard? All right, fair enough.
No idea. So, whilst I was working on the Phantom, which has obviously got Japanese decals in it, I needed to use Mr. Mark Softer, which is kind of my go-to for that, for those decals. Mr. Mark Softer at the moment in the UK is almost impossible to get hold of. I just couldn't find any anywhere, and I've got a sort of the remnants of a bottle here, and I've got a much fuller bottle of the Setter. And so you've got full bottles.
Yeah, these are about 5 years old as well.
Yeah. So I went online and I came across the Neo versions. From what I can gather, and I'm really open to being corrected on this because I don't know until I use this, and I will be using this very shortly, so I'll get an idea, is that somehow these are designed for European decals, such as Cartograph, rather than being designed for Japanese decals, which Mr. Mark Softer and Setter, those versions, are used for. And also, this here is clear. This is white. So I don't really know what's in this in comparison to this material here. So I will. The only way I'm going to do that is to actually have a play with these and see how they work on Decals. See, they're of no use to me whatsoever, these two products, for European decals. For anything that comes in an Airfix kit, an Italeri kit, or anything like that, then they're of no use to me whatsoever for that. I only have these for Japanese decals, and at the risk of getting myself into lots of trouble with the intelligentsia, who have spent the last 3 or 4 years telling me that I'm wrong for pointing out that certain products are designed to make the application of other products easier when you combine the two, that's why I keep these here, so that I can use them on Tamiya decals, on Tamiya kits, and these things kind of almost melt the ink into the underlying surface. So that's why I've kept these. But I'd be very interested to see how they work. I've also been using, when it comes to fixatives, I've been using this as well. This is the MIG ammo decal fix that I got in a set. Mig sent me a bunch of stuff, and this was one of the things that came in it. I think it came in a he does a box. It's like a primer box of different products, and there's some putties in there and glues and all that sort of stuff. This stuff's great. I really, really like this. I think it's really good. I mean, it's really got a strong vinegary smell, so it's quite a potent sort of fixer. But it's a bit like Decals strong setting solution. It works really well on decals, on sort of European decals.
Observation from John Patrick Huston, who says neo usually means new formula, hence milky.
Yeah, well, maybe that's what it is. Maybe the reason you can't get Mark Softer and Cetaven is this is the replacement. So they're the same size bottles and everything. So we'll sort of see how that goes. So I'll give that a go and sort of try that out. I agree with John. John, that's really, really annoying. What are you doing?
I've forgotten. I've got one more thing to show you.
Oh, God. Can't you just cut it?
No. It's a different film, Ted. It's a different shark.
Right, okay.
Oh, what is this? Oh, it's aftershave. Well, I want to give this a go. This is Mr. Weathering Paste. Now, Martin Kovac is very abulative, is that a word? About the Alan Wilder stuff, but this is apparently very similar, and it's water soluble. So I'm going to give this a go to see what this is like in terms of doing blends and weathering and stuff, and just give it a go. I mean, it's of the colours they had. I looked at them and I thought, oh, that's too pale, that's too dark. This is a nice colour, and you can always kind of darken it with an airbrush and washes. So that may well get deployed on these on the CMP, the Plastic Soldier Company CMP. And also, I'm going to see what that's like as a texture for speckling as well.
Have you used any of the Wilder material?
No.
It is without doubt, and I will put my reputation on the line as a material to create dust effects. It is without doubt the best thing on the market by some margin.
No,
it is the most extraordinary material. For creating deposits of dust and kind of mud. It's water soluble, and it reactivates. It's a little bit like the sort of the life color material. Yeah. It's thicker than that. It's actually it's almost like an oil paint in its material. If you can get hold of some, I think
you know what? I was I was hoping to get some at Telford last year, but the ones that I wanted every time I've been at the few shows before then, every time I've been at the shows, they've had in stock everything but the ones I wanted.
Right.
I will give them a go. Likewise, Martin is always very keen on the life color rust sets you can get.
Yeah,
rust colors.
Well.
Because apparently they've got quite a lot of pigment in them, and they dry absolutely dead matte.
Yeah, they are really fantastic.
I might get some of those.
Yeah,
yeah, go on.
the junkyard diorama that I made 12 years ago or something now with the crane and the Hetzer in, all of the rust effects on that were done with life color rust colors. Everything. They are brilliant. They're really good. One quick point about Wilder is that it's Adam Wilder's company until now. He resigned this week, so I'm not sure how long the products are going to last, but Adam himself is no longer part of Wilder. He put an announcement up on his Facebook page this week that he is going on to pastures new, and he's not going to be involved any longer with the Wilder brand, in much the same way that a certain Spaniard wasn't involved for once he left with the company that bore his name, but Adam is kind of moving on. He's full-time teacher anyway, Adam. That's his profession. But he's going to be doing other things. So whether or not Wilder's products will still be available, I don't know. I think they're available through the Airbrush company anyway, so you can pick them up through there. But I'd certainly recommend them. They are really, really impressive.
Yeah. So I've just slightly distracted at the moment because Tim Maunders said, "John, your sound has an echo." Yeah, I can hear it, and I don't know what is going on here because I've tried several microphones, several settings, and for some reason I keep getting an echo, and I wish I knew why. So I do apologise if you can hear more of me than you really should.
Ian's put just quickly, John. I saw that. Yeah. That would be a perfectly reasonable explanation for it. Then there's certainly with the kind of labels on. So it will be interesting to see how they react with. I mean, it would be to me a Decals that I'm interested in because the originals, and maybe that is the case. Does that then, in that case, is that the same issue as they do a Neo version of this as well? Are they replacements? They do a Mr. Masking Soul Neo as well, don't they? Which I thought I had, but I don't.
I will let you into a little secret. Is that the formula for Japanese decals, especially Tamiya and Hasegawa decals, the inks and the varnishes they use are different to what I use mainly in Europe.
Yes,
and there is a reason why. If you go back 30 years, and we're going to do the old thing, 30 plus years ago, Fine Scale Modeler did a survey of decals and setting solutions to find out what worked with what and what didn't. And actually, decal solutions are not a one-size-fits-all thing. There are things that will work with some. There are some that won't work with some, and there are some that will absolutely destroy decals completely. They will destroy them utterly. So you have to be very circumspect with what you're using and the type of decal you're using. By and large, a bit like you, if I'm using Tamiya kit decals, I will dust off the Mr. Mark Softer and Setter, or the Setter and Softer, and use those. For cartograph, by and large, I don't use any setting solutions at all.
Oh, really?
I just put them. I know. It's going to the controversial bits coming now. I just put them straight on a gloss surface, and I don't usually use any setting solutions whatsoever. In fact, I would argue that's the great thing about using a gloss surface is that you really don't have to use any setting solutions. He said very quietly, but by and large, I don't. And then sometimes microscale decals, I will use microsol and microset. It's only on occasions if something doesn't want to wrap around a shape, or I'm slightly concerned, especially small stencils, because they have such a minimal surface area. They're actually the things that are more likely to silver 9 times out of 10. So for those, I usually do blast them with a bit of microsol.
Yes, I mean, I tend to be kind of belt and braces about stickers. To be honest, I like to sort of, especially when they run over panel lines. And I seem to spend an inordinate amount of time then cutting through the decal and reapplying so that there's kind of no evidence of sort of overlay when it goes over the top of the panel and drop into it properly.
Okay, question. This is a good one from Steve Moores. He says, "Okay, clear this up for me. What's the difference between sol and set?" Well, with microsol and microset is, I think we'll probably agree on this. The set is the setting solution. So what that does is it actually reduces the surface tension of the decal. Yep. And usually because it's got like a high, it's like a high acidic kind of formula, a bit like vinegar. So essentially, when you put that on there, it just helps to float the decal across the top and to kind of, to actually get it in place. The sol parts tend to be the solvent. They are the aggressive part of the whole thing, which actually will melt the decal into the surface. I probably got that the wrong way. Yeah, it's roughly like that. But essentially, you use. Yeah, I know. It's like vinegar.
It is.
And in fact,
that's distinctly stronger smelling than that.
Yeah. In fact, what I tend to do these days is when I do my little dish of tepid water for doing decals, is I will put a little bit of washing up liquid in there. I'll also put in there a couple of squirts of white vinegar into the water itself.
All right.
So that when I'm actually, if I'm using, I still prefer to use microset to actually use that to float the decal into position. And then when I'm happy with that, is wick everything off and then whack it with microsol.
I'm doing what Ian Hartop's told me to do. Right. Yeah, the smell, it's completely different. It's a completely different material. There's no kind of vinegary smell in these, I don't think. We'll see. No, they smell like emulsion paints. Really, it must be. They must work. I guess.
But would you agree with that kind of layman's?
Yes, that is exactly what it is. Yeah, that is exactly what it was. Yeah, the blue one, this one here, microset, it's like a kind of floating agent, really. Yeah. It's a wetting agent that allows the decal to move into position and not suffer from the surface tension of the water. It breaks up any water underneath, allows the water to dissipate from underneath the decal as well, and it allows it just to kind of settle properly. This, though, is the thing that melts the decal into the surface and allows it to conform. So it softens it down, and then once it's kind of softened down and dried out, it then tightens over the surface. So they work in concert with each other, obviously. There are lots of other products that are out there that are different kind of things, but microsol and microset are kind of the only. Like softer and setter, they're a two-part system, whereas this one appears to be a single-part system where it just kind of works. I've been like you. I've been using these now for centuries.
I need to actually I need to check the next time I'm in Frooms to check to see if they stock them, because my microsol is, well, we're about midway with that, but my microset, it's just kind of like dead soldier. It's okay.
How can you? I need to know. Inquiring minds. How can you have a product that has so little in it and not have replaced it yet without having some kind of emotional breakdown?
No, because in that case, I'll use I have this as the backup. But
I bet you've got more than one bottle of that as well, haven't you?
No, I haven't. I've only got those two bottles, but I do definitely need to get some fresh microsol and microset. That is very seeing as I have Mr. Colour Thinner in triplicate up here. I need to get some microsol and microset.
Do they sell Mark Softer and Setter in Froome?
I will check, and I'll also check on the Antics website as well. So
if they do, kind sir, could you pick some up for me?
I think I can do that. Let me just double check. I'm sure Antics do it.
Do that. We should have a word with Mr. Hills and see whether.
Yeah. I'm just having.
Hello, Jennifer.
Oh, it's Jennifer turned up, is she?
Jennifer's turned up. Hello. How are you? I hope you're well.
Jenny from the blog.
Jenny from the blog.
Not showing anything from Froome at the moment, so I'm just going to check Antics online. Let's just have a quick set there for microsol. So microsol. Antics do microsol, and they've got They've got none in Bristol, but they got them in Cardiff, Gloucester, Plymouth, and Stroud. And
the Gunsey.
I'm just doing the micro set, but they haven't got any micro set according to this. And the Mr. Mark softer. So Mr. Mark.
Jen, we're all living the dream. It's an endless cavalcade of fresh-faced unicorns and green pastures.
That's just all right. That's all right. This is my bugbear of people reacting to comments that other people can't see. So let's get them up there. Hello, Jen. Jen says, "Living the dream, lads. We are all the delusion, Jen. It's one or the other." Right.
I'm trying to be positive. We're being positive today. We're not having any of this negativity, Lark.
Oh, I was very negative yesterday morning, but in a good sense, because I did my lateral flow test, which there we go. Antics Online. So they got the Gunsanya Mr. Mark softer decal solution. This doesn't appear to be the. Oh, it is the Neo. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
I think I think it's a replacement. So
but I'll just do a quick micro scale, I suppose it is. Oh, there we go. There we go. Bing, bing. There we go. So micro sol, and they do micro sol, and they do micro set. So. Jolly good. I might actually have a word with Andy and see if he can get 2 bottles of each, get them into Bristol, and then I'll pop into Bristol. And
it's possible. I mean, it's possible that they've got some of those solutions in the shop. So
I'll check. I'll check with Andy and ask him. I do actually have to pop into Bristol at some stage.
It's just kind of annoying. I think. I say it's annoying. It's not annoying because these are first world problems. But when you're used to using a product and all of a sudden you can't get that, or it gets replaced by something else that you're not used to, it kind of becomes a bit of a sort of a snag. So that's more of it, really. It's not a kind of a huge issue. It's just, and then there may need to then be some adjustment in terms of of technique or whatever to work around that. Changing the subject very slightly, went out today and bought 2 kits. Well, actually not today. I bought a kit last week and I picked it up today. But you may remember last year I don't know if I posted this. I certainly talked about it in the midst of the pandemic. Kits were being. I was ordering some bits and pieces for the Legacy collection, and one of them, the money had been taken from my account. The kit was on its way. I waited. The kit was on its way. I waited. It was on its way, and I waited for I think it was probably a couple of months. And then in the end, the money was given back to me, and the kit was cancelled. That kit is this.
Now,
this one.
Funny you mention that because one of the kits that I boxed up to go back into Loft is the original Tamiya Panzer D. Is it the D or the F? Yeah, the D. And on the side, it's got all the other variants. You're going to have it. There we go. You're going to have it there.
No, these ones on here actually aren't those. Oh, they've got the Panzer IV Aus H. Then the Panzerkampfwagen 3 Aus for MN, Stunkerschutz 3, Tiger, and the Panther. Now, the reason why this is interesting to me, if not to anybody else, really, the reason why it's kind of interesting is it almost completes a set of these Panzer IV variants.
There we go.
And there we are.
But on the side, see, look, there they are. Look,
okay.
Yeah, Panzer IV Lang.
Got.
Brumbeer.
Not got.
Your Stug.
Got.
Wirbelwind.
Got.
But all based on the same basic Tamiya chassis.
They are. Have I got Brumbeer? No, I've got the new one. I haven't got the old one. But it was one of those. The reason I mention it is because it was kind of one of those nice surprises. I mentioned about Hobbycraft a couple of weeks ago in that they've stopped doing Airfix and Humbrol. at the moment. We don't know what situation is going to be going forward. But I went in there just to pick up some black card to photograph the figure and the bike against. And I thought, well, I'll pick up a couple of bottles of paint while I'm in there and sort of have a look at the kits and see what's in. And this was at the bottom. They had 3 of them. And I was like, wow, that's brilliant. That's the kit I wanted last year. Couldn't get a hold of. The other thing that was brilliant about it as well is it was £17.
I was going to say, how much was it?
It was £17. I paid £17 for a 35th scale Stug 4, which then puts it firmly within our kind of challenge territory. I know you don't have it, and this isn't going to be part of the challenge, but puts it in that sub £20 category that you and I were both both chatting about, weren't we? And how kind of nice that is. So what it means is that essentially I've got a set of Panzer IVs that I can kind of have a play with. The only one I'm looking for, the Brummbauer is relatively easy to get hold of. That's not a difficult kit. The Wirbelwind, on the other hand, is much more difficult to get hold of because Tamiya replaced it. They replaced it with a version that was based on their Aus J kit that was released at the start of the 90s. So if you Google Tamiya Flat Panzer Wirbelwind, it always throws that one up. And also, I'm pretty sure they might have used the same box art as well, which also makes it difficult. But I don't want that version. I want the early version. I want the 70s release. That's the one that fits in with this legacy collection. So if anybody out there knows where I can get one of these things from, preferably for £17, then please let me know. The other one that I got today was another one that I posted on the picture. And that is this one. Now, the great thing about this is I ordered this from King Kit, and I'd been online and sort of mentioned that some of these were online for eye-watering amounts of money. The 32nd scale monogram kits are really stupidly expensive at the moment online. We talked about this before. But King Kit had one of these for £25, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. When I picked it up today, I went to do click and collect there on the other side of town. It was still shrink wrapped in its original plastic. So it was essentially brand new. It hadn't been opened at all. And it had this as you opened the box.
Dun, 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 dun. That's the thing. That's the...
It's almost worth spending £25 to get hold of one of these.
Do you know what? That's pretty much what you'd be paying for it if it was still out there today. 25 quid. That's a good price for it.
It really is. And this is literally mint. Now, what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put it into a cello bag or something so I can protect it, because it hasn't got a mark on it. It's brand new, effectively. And I think this is the first time I've had a monogram kit with one of these in it. I think this is the first time I've ever held one of these tip sheets that were created to go in a number of kits that Shep had a hand in, if you like. Now, what's great about this, apart from the fact it's brilliant to read, because it's got loads of sort of writing in, I also love the way it's designed. I think that's just lovely. There's something about it that I really clean. Like. It's really clean. And then on the back is some information about the kit. The great thing about this is that this diorama, much like all the other dioramas that Shep built for Monogram, were built in around about 10 days in the main. He didn't really have a lot more time than that. Between a week and 10 days for all of the dioramas that he was built. So he built them really quickly. And that sort of manifests itself slightly with this one, in that if you kind of look, if you can see this picture here, this one here, you can see that he's not cleaned the tube up. There's like if I can put that.
I'll tell you what, scan it. See if you can scan that and actually pop that up on the page.
So that's kind of how it manifests itself. However, that sounds really lazy. He's not cleaned that tube up. He then, in this build, converts all of the 6 bogies from the upright early versions to the HVSS ones and scratch built all the detail on a model he knew he only had between a week and 10 days to complete. And then the figures on this, these ones here, these aren't stock figures, are they, either?
No.
He's actually taken figures, converted them, and then sculpted the uniforms. These dioramas look to be quite naive today, is the best description I can give them. They're quite naive in terms of the detailing, in terms of the way that they painted, in terms of the way that they're accessorized. These were eye-watering works of art back in the 70s, and I can't put it any more strongly than that. Shep Payne's work on these sheets here, this is ground zero for what we do. This is ground zero for model makers and armor modelers and everything, because thousands, millions probably, of young American boys in particular will have seen these sheets in these kits, and they would have been completely mesmerized by them. And that is the simplest way you will ever have in a kit of making somebody want to build it.
It is telling that in Bill Horan's book on figures, one of his books on figures, there's a little bit of biography at the beginning where he describes as a teenager coming across Shep Payne's leaflets in the monogram kits and how they just opened his eyes to what was possible.
Yes.
And now, we're talking about Bill Horan, one of the finest figure modelers ever to grace this planet, and thankfully still gracing this planet. Yeah. So he was one of those people who was absolutely inspired and galvanized by Shep Payne's work. And as I say, you had this parallel thing going on. You had Shep in America, you had Francois in Europe.
Yeah,
both doing similar but slightly different approaches, but similar approaches. Without them, I wonder where and how things may have progressed.
Someone would have come along. It's like everything. If there hadn't been Buddy Rich, there would have been somebody else. If there hadn't been Eric Clapton, there would have been, or Jimi Hendrix, there would have been someone else. That's just a fact of life. You can't say we wouldn't have had anything without those models, because somebody would have stepped into the breach. It's as simple as that. But we can only work on the history that we have. We can only discuss the history that we've experienced up till now. And where we are today in terms of model makers, where as a military model maker, which is predominantly what I am, this hobby and the industry that surrounds it, certainly in terms of the aftermarket and the books and all of those kind of things, wouldn't exist without those two guys. They were fundamental in bringing things to the fore. Nobody else had done resin figures before Francois decided to do resin figures for his range. White metal figures were the way that you had them. You had plastic figures and white metal figures. Nobody had done them in resin. Nobody had done 120mm figures, as far as I'm aware, before he decided to release a 120mm figure. Shep brought into... People were building dioramas before Shep presumably became sort of well known at the start of the 70s. But Shep kind of almost democratized it. He brought in the idea that with simple techniques, simple materials, a simple kit, a few figures, a simple bit of groundwork and a building, you too could create a diorama that you could show off to your friends. And then Monogram ran with the idea, and they put those sheets in with the kits. Those sheets have never appeared in, as far as I'm aware, and I'm open to being corrected, but as far as I'm aware, something similar to that has never appeared in any other kit range. To me, I certainly haven't done it. They've not put those sheets into it to give you ideas. They put black and white printed sheets in to give you ideas. Try painting like this and all of that sort of stuff. But in terms of actually what you can do with the kit, here's what you can do with the kit. And the thing was, it's not like it's a replacement for the box art either, because that box art, Shep might have painted that, but that's the kit inside. That's not the model that's on the diorama. So they had to do it twice. So not only did they do the box art as you actually get in the kit, for obvious reasons, because you don't want to be putting a kit on. You know, this is not this is not the Revell 32nd scale F-18 Hornet from years gone by that wasn't theirs on their box. You know, this is an entirely different kettle of fish, and I can't think of any other company that's done that. It seems to have been of its time, you know. But what they had in their hands with Shep, and this should never be forgotten. What they had a genius in their hands in terms of what we do. They had access to a man that was not only prodigiously talented as a model maker, given the time and given the materials available to him, he was super fast and super focused as well. So they knew that they could give him something, and then a week later they'd not only, and this is the thing that's worth bearing in mind, not only have a model that they could then sell to you know, to young boys or enthusiasts, whatever. He created some of the most iconic dioramas in the history of our hobby as a result of the work that he put in. Now, there is an argument that that's because they were the first and people became very aware of them and all of that sort of stuff. But you name me other dioramas that are as iconic as those. Everybody remembers the Calliope. Everybody remembers the whirlwind on the bridge. Everybody remembers Wolf in Sheep's Clothing with the 88 in the church. They were iconic dioramas that were created from the hands of a guy who knew exactly what to do, exactly how to tell a story, and exactly how to recreate that in 3 dimensions. And we will, I genuinely mean this, you know, with Francois and with Shep Payne, we're never going to see their like again. We're not. Because at the moment there are so many people out there doing so much stuff, but in terms of 2 individuals working opposite ends of the globe, we won't see their like again. They are unique in the history of this of our hobby.
It's a bit like really in kind of like in cinema you had 2 kind of quantum leap forwards in the technology of how we make cinema. Both, ironically, coming out of Industrial Light and Magic. The first of which was motion control.
Yes.
You know, Star Wars, that was the game changer. Suddenly, you know, that was it. Dangling models on wires was no longer the way forward. It was motion control. And then only 16 years later, ILM again, CGI. And that changed everything forever. You'll never have that kind of technological leap forward in cinema again, because that's pretty much it. There'll probably be leaps forward in terms of 3D and in terms of other things like that. But in terms of those, you know, those particular technological advances, that's it. They were the 2 most important things. And you're right, when it comes to the diorama, you know, we will have people who will be doing dioramas that will be more fantastically detailed and more realistic and will be eye-wateringly gorgeous. But in terms of that initial step forward, that sea change within the hobby, it was Francois and Shep, and as Mike Reeves has reminded me, also Bob Letterman as well. That's your kind of your little trio. Where
I mean, you could, if we're going to start adding, you could add Louis Pruneau in there as well.
Yeah, Louis Pruneau.
You know, but the thing is that. No matter, I can build nice models.
Yeah.
You know, and I like to think I do. I'm never going to build anything iconic ever in the same way. And I could do this. I could work on these ideas until the end of days.
You say that, and yet your Sherman diorama of the workshop was so iconic that actually modelers have homaged it with their own recreations of it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the thing. No, I don't agree. I don't agree because, they have.
It's far too modest.
One guy in particular copied it almost word for word, really. But I don't. There's nothing in this. This certainly goes back to a conversation I had a couple of weeks ago, and everything about that idea of sort of, you know, art or artisan. really. I don't see myself as an artist. I see myself as an artisan, and they are very different in my head. I use artistic techniques, but am I an artist? No, I don't think so. But they were because they were using different things. And we the other thing that links the two of them together as well, certainly initially, was their lack of material that they could use.
Yeah.
You know, at the moment, what makes it why I think the idea of iconography in 21st century model making is an unlikely end game for a lot of people is we have the moon on a stick and a bag to put it in. We can literally have every single thing that we want, no matter where we are. We can buy whatever we want. Yeah, exactly. In terms of finishing materials, but also in terms of accessories, in terms of the vehicles, all of those kind of things. We can have whatever we want.
We are spoiled for choice.
We are. There is literally nothing you can think of that you can't buy, or you can't have made, or you can't, print, or whatever. Yeah. Back then, they were working on the creation of these dioramas that we all remember and we all love, and that we've all seen, and they had nothing to work with. I mean, Shep was working in 30-second scale to make life even more difficult for himself, working within the boundaries of what Monogram would allow him to use. So it wasn't like he could go out and use Tamiya parts on a diorama that was going to go in a Monogram box. He was using still Monogram parts. He was absolutely having to manufacture almost his own bits, And I think that's something else to remember about these guys. When we talk about icons, icons are few and far between, I think. There have been a lot of modeler makers, over the years, over sort of modern times, that are inspirational, but they're not icons in the same.
I would say certainly somebody like Mig Jimenez. He has. I know there are other modelers who were around and probably came before him, but in terms of an entirely new school of finishing, you can certainly look at Mig as being the figurehead of a completely different way of doing it. I will fully acknowledge that Mig's video on painting and weathering with acrylics was an absolute game changer for me. And then I started kind of following what he did, and it was like, wow, this is because it was actually almost a complete reversal of the Verlinden technique. It was anyway. Got a comment here from Steve Johnson, and he says, "I was one of those mesmerized boys back in the early 70s. Still have several of those myself." Yeah. I think for a lot of us in the UK, it certainly Shep was somebody you would have been aware of under certain circumstances, but obviously a lot of people never came across his work at all because of some of the books, the 3 books he did on figures, dioramas, and military vehicles. They were available in this country, but not widely available. So
I think I was first aware of his models when Wolf in Sheep's Clothing appeared in the Tamiya catalogue. That was the first time I think I'd seen one of Shep's dioramas, and I was kind of blown away by it. And then I ended up buying the book not long after, which would have been about 1982 or 83, the first book, the diorama book. But before that, absolutely not really. But a generation of model makers before that had been aware of them because of these books. But also, when you think about what we had access to in the UK, and in terms of, we had Airfix kits, we had Matchbox kits. That's what we built. Odd Revell kits, you and I. If you think about sort of having one of those Monogram kits, that would have been, to me and you, if somebody had said, "Here you go, have one of these," and add that cheat sheet, that sort of tip sheet inside, your mind would have been completely blown, wouldn't it?
My mind would have completely blown, because my entire modelling library would have probably consisted of 2 magazines, and that was it. And this would have been like somebody turning up with a platter of cream cakes. It was just
And also, it's a brilliant piece of marketing as well in terms of the package, because everybody is then thinking, oh well, as Shep done, I want to complete the set of sheets almost that go in with these kits, and you think of how many were in there, all of the armor kits presumably, then you had 48 scale aircraft kits, Liberator, the B-17 Flying Fortress, the B-26, the B-25 Mitchell, all of those had those presumably those diorama sheets inside them. So you want to collect them. It's a brilliant piece of marketing.
I actually think it's something that we should have a chat about off air, and that's all I'm going to say.
I think it's an absolutely mind blowing thing. I mean, I just kind of, I mean, to do that, you know, to kind of to put that together, I'm like, cogs.
Yeah. It is
absolutely cogs. You know, that's the kind of thing. I absolutely love it. I genuinely love it. But it's not just the model, which I cannot tell you how much I love this diorama. I love that design. It's just, I mean, it would, you know, it's just, I mean, seriously.
It's nice and unfussy, and
it's nice and symmetrical as well, which I
gets to the point.
Like.
In fact, somebody did say in the comments that it is very. Let me just try and find it. They did say it is very fine scale model. There we go. Dave Fleming said the design is very like fine scale modeler. Well, fine scale modeler's layout. Yeah, and that's the thing I liked about FUSM when I first came across it in the mid 1980s was compared to the British magazines, which were very much kind of, you know, still mired in like 1950s typography and design. You picked up fine scale modeler, and it was just this brilliantly light and modern and airy design. And this was the thing, you know, it sounds not disrespectful, but it sounds slightly disingenuous. That was the thing as somebody who was in their kind of late teens to early 20s in the mid 1980s, that was the thing I liked about fine scale modeler, was that it was very forward thinking and adventurous, and it was full of new ideas and energy. That's a good word. Fine scale model was full of energy. Then I pick up the British magazines, and it was all very much kind of like, you know, and this is how we paint things with a paintbrush. And it was all just kind of like, it felt so yesterday. It didn't feel things had progressed from the mid 70s. And then when I started being able to find at model shows, I started finding old copies of Airfix magazine from the 1960s. It really came into sharp focus.
Yes, I agree.
Things hadn't really moved that far forward. No. And yet fine scale model, which in many respects, I think it's possibly coming from a European sensibility. It's a very American thing. It just had that kind of pizzazz and that energy and that kind of get up and go about it, which is what I love that, you know, and I can understand why, you know, kind of like, you know, across the world, so many people buy into, you know, American culture, because it does have that kind of that buzz and that energy to it. And that was very much something I picked up on in fine scale model. It was a very inspirational magazine for me.
I remember the first time I picked up a copy of that from Smith's in Telford, you know, and I was like, what's this? You're kind of looking at it going, that's not like a normal modelling magazine. What's going on there, kind of thing? Ian's put there, the best marketing tool has to be the Tamiya catalogue. I would suggest that may well be the case, certainly when they had those central dioramas in there. You know, because firstly, nobody gets past the way that the models looked. The models always look great in those catalogues. I think the Hasegawa one was very similar in that respect. But you look at them and everything, and you just think, yeah, I can imagine building that. I agree with you. But at the moment, the Tamiya catalogues are just still beautiful to look at. And you look at the way that those models looked back then, and they were magical to look at.
Shall I tell you something? I've got the 21 Tamiya catalogue, and so many of those photographs of the finished models, they might have been slightly retouched and different backgrounds put in, or gradient backgrounds put in, but a lot of those photographs are still the same photographs from 50 years ago. They've just been enhanced. Tamiya have never messed with a winning formula with their catalogues. No, absolutely not. You can pick up a catalogue from the 1970s, and you can pick up a catalogue from 2021, and essentially the format and the layout and everything is still the same. The boxes, I mean, you know, to me, a box, what's that? That's over 35 years old. That's 40 years old. That, a white box with the logo, the typography, it really doesn't change. Why would you want to change it? It's a winning formula. And certainly with the catalogs, when they used to have the center spreads with all the dioramas and everything in there, the one that I remember is probably it will be the first Tamiya catalog I got, which was given to me by Mr. Simper of the local toy shop. And there's a diorama there which is the Battle of Kursk or something. And it's just like T-34s and Russian soldiers and German soldiers. There's another one of like an American military convoy at rest. Honestly, as a kid, I just opened it up and I was just like, is this what is possible?
Yes.
And it was fantastic.
Even now, I mean, I think I dug a Tamiya catalogue out the other day, and I was looking at some of the older stuff that was in there, and it was just like, wow, there were some great ideas. And at the sort of risk of upsetting all of my sort of European friends, Japanese modelers have got a brilliant imagination when it comes to dioramas. They create things that are so well done and such simple ideas.
Well, it's like the remodeling competition that Tamiya used to run, probably still run actually. That was extraordinary.
The patchy competition, it was really good.
Yeah.
So
we are now past 9 o'clock, so I think we are going to have to wrap this up for this evening. So, any other business?
I don't think so. Not at the moment. We've gone through pretty much everything, haven't we? Picara we've done. We've done all the bits and pieces. Yeah. We've had a chitty chat about Shep Payne.
I'm looking forward to giving that a whiz, actually. That's interesting.
Give it a go. If it's let me know how you get on with that. It is very good, I'm sure. And
yes, I will. So I need to get these other projects wrapped up, so I can, like I say, I'm going to do that figure. But I am just going to cheat like mad on it. Really.
It'd be interesting to see how different it looks, how different the figure looks painted another way.
Well, it'll suck. That's how it'll look, but we will give it a go. Actually, I did do. This is going back 10 or so years ago when Airfix did the Doctor Who figures, and they did the David Tennant and I've forgotten the name of the actress, Martha Jones, well, the character anyway. And I do remember. I did use the airbrush extensively on them. I think I only used the paintbrush for little details and things. What I didn't do on the David Tennant figure was I didn't do the pinstriping because I do not have the talent to do the pinstriping. Yeah, I thought about it, but
well, something that I've got in the loft that I came across the other day, I think must have been sent it by somebody recently, is I've got a Polar Lights kit. You know, one of the big 6-scale ones of Frankenstein's Bride, which has got. Do you know the one with the two figures together in a laboratory?
Elsa Lanchester.
I've got that. That would be kind of a perfect kind of test bed for these, really. Not maybe for Frankenstein.
Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah,
so Frankenstein was the doctor.
So Frankenstein's monster.
Frankenstein's monster. Yeah.
I don't know anything about all these silly.
I do.
You'll be starting to tell me all about some radioactive dinosaur now.
No, I'm just going to say that the original Frankenstein film was directed by English director James Whale, and it was starred Boris Karloff as the monster, and then the sequel, The Bride of Lancaster, was also directed by Whale. Elsa Lanchester, British actress, who also see Spencer's got too close to his MacBook and the signal's gone. Elsa Lanchester, who was also a British actress, and she was married to the famous British actor Charles Laughton. You see, it's all going through my head here. But now you've mentioned it, actually, on Monday the 17th of May, I have a date.
Oh yes, you're going to see
I have a date at the cinema to go and see a giant monkey punch a giant radioactive dinosaur. I'm so glad I held out. I held on to my purity to be able to go to the cinema.
My purity. I stayed pure to my principles. God damn it.
Yeah, I did. I'm so glad that I held out. And so I'm going to the Vue Cinema in Bristol. And I've booked into their, it's the XD screen, which is the brightest one, but it's also the one with the surround sound. So I have picked the best cinema to go and see Giant Ape Punch Radioactive Dinosaur, and I'm so excited and just. The thing is, everybody else has seen this damn film except me, because I wasn't going to watch it on television. I was waiting for it to come to the cinema to actually get a cinematic release. So I should be there. I should be all masked up and everything, and looking forward to it. Lateral flow test the night before, the day before, and then go to the cinema. And I'm so looking forward to that. Honestly, you won't hear the last of it. Trust me, you won't hear the last of it.
To be honest, I feel like we've not heard the last of it for the last couple of months.
It's been a long time coming. Anyway, so that's my yes. That's my any other business. Just remains to say thank you to everybody for tuning in tonight. We will be back on Sunday. Got quite a few things to talk about Sunday, because there have been movements in the world of kit news. So as always, it just remains to say thank you to everybody who's watching. Name check each other. You know who you are. Excuse me. As always, stay safe, stay out of trouble, be good, conscientious, kind people that we know you are, and we'll see you all on Sunday. So it is a goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
Good night.
Goodbye.